Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Behind the Reel. This is episode number 33. We have Kristine Fischer here to talk to us tonight. Hard to believe that we've already done 33 of these things over the last year or so. So appreciate all of you guys out there that have been tuning in and week out. We've definitely focused more on the local kayak tournament scene in most of our other episodes, but we're going to branch out just a little bit. Although this guest does definitely have some Midwest roots. So we'll definitely talk about some of those Midwest roots as well. One thing so for you guys that maybe didn't tune in last week, just to fill you in, we had Oliver Nye on the show. Go check that out after this one's done if you haven't already. And then we have some guests coming up in the next couple weeks or so. We've got Justin Royal, who is doing some really cool stuff on YouTube. And then also got Marshall Arnwine, who is known as the Homeless Fisherman, that will be joining us here in the coming weeks. One thing that I did want to mention for all of you local guys that maybe don't have plans this weekend and want to go freeze your butt off and do some fishing out at Table Rock, myself and Justin Maples and Stoney are going to be going out and fishing the Moyak Winter Series out there on Table Rock. So come join us, represent Kansas, represent your local club, and hopefully we'll get into some good fish out there. And then also shout out to the Kayak Night Tournament Series. He just posted his schedule up today. Check him out on Facebook. He's doing a split series between Kansas and Missouri. The lakes on that schedule are going to be Table Rock, Wilson, Stockton, Perry, Bull Shoals, and Big Hill. So he's got a really cool lineup there. And last but not least, I just want to shout out Outdoorsman Coffee Company. If you guys haven't checked them out already, go use code ACKA20. So that stands for Air Capital Kayak Anglers 20, and save some money on your next bag of Outdoorsman Coffee. That is a veteran-owned business that supports grassroots kayak fishing. So make sure you check them out. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring Kristine on, and we'll just get right to the show.
Hey,
hello,
John.
Kristine.
What's up, man?
What's up? How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
Exhausted from all the podcasts over the last week or two?
You know what? I'm not even exhausted from the podcast. I'm exhausted from my boyfriend getting me up at 2 a.m. to go walk 2.5 miles to hunt public land ducks down here in Oklahoma, Texas this morning.
Okay.
But it was all a good time.
Did you get into any?
We did, yeah. We took Matt Scotch. So the three of us got a three-man limit this morning. It was a pretty grueling hunt, but it was fun.
Yeah. Is it pretty cold down there? Or?
It was this morning.
Yeah, probably in the 20s or 30s, I imagine.
It was probably in the upper 30s.
Yeah.
But, I've been in the South for a while. So back when I was in the Midwest, the 30s, upper 30s didn't feel too bad because I was acclimated.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start spending time down South, it's like 30 and 40 seems cold. 50 seems cold. So I'm kind of
spoiled.
Back up north, yeah.
Okay, so and we've definitely seen some posts from him over the years with quite a few birds hanging over a tree stump or something. He always goes out and slays them, it seems like.
Always, yeah. He loves it.
Did you do a lot of hunting back home?
I did, yeah. When I first started working at Shields, I managed the hunting department there for 5 years, and that's when I really, really got into hunting. I got into bow hunting big. I did a lot of antelope hunting out west. Did some deer hunting, but my big thing, my favorite thing, and still this day, was spring turkey hunting with my bow. That was probably one of the absolute best feelings, is to be out there by yourself with your frame pack and blind and your mouth call, and you let out a little, yelp or a cluck, and you hear a gobbler 40 yards away, and you're like, okay, it's on. That's the good stuff. I did a lot of that for years, and unfortunately, hunting's taken the back seat to my fishing career the last 5 years, so I haven't got to do a whole lot of it. But with G, he takes the entire winter in duck hunt, so I get to do a little bit of that with him, and we're going to make time this spring, fingers crossed, to do some turkey hunting. So looking forward to that.
the success rate doesn't seem like it'd be very high with a bow over like a shotgun. And is that a pretty common thing to use bow on turkey?
I mean, it is, and it's pretty big in Nebraska. And I felt, I never in all I probably shot 20 birds in the course of my bow hunting. And I never lost one. And all of my shots, the cool thing about a bow is I shot all my birds under like 9 yards.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, it's pretty up close and personal. And I shot them all right off the back of my Jake decoy or right around it. So it's pretty close.
Heck yeah. All right, let's see. We've got a few people over here in the chat. If you guys want to see some or hear some questions be answered, just post those over there in the live chat. And if you see one you just want to dig into, you can grab one there. Daniel Maffei, he's talking about Outdoorsman Coffee Company.
Yeah.
He has really enjoyed that, and he's won a few tournaments, and we've sent some of this stuff home with quite a few people. And you know the guy behind that one. He used to kayak fish.
He gets out there every now and then and does it. I have a feeling we'll see more of him in the upcoming years.
Yeah, so something that we did here, we actually took all 4 clubs and we combined them. We're trying to combine them into one big statewide series this year. So we're hoping that'll bring some people out of retirement from the local events. You've seen guys like, maybe even Richie McMichael who have taken their put their focus more on the national stuff. But maybe we can bring some of those guys out, and guys like David that'll want to come out and fish, possibly a 50, 60, 70 angler event, right here in their home state.
That'd be really cool. Yeah.
So I think that's similar to maybe what the stick guys did, the sticks. I'm not sure. I know they kind of combined or did something years back, and I don't know. We're just winging it, but hopefully that'll pull him out.
Yeah.
Fat Bassett says, I want to say I really liked you calling out the female body sellers in the fishing industry, and you're out here proving yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used to be pretty vocal about the bikini using sex to sell, and that I was very vocal about that when I first got on the scene. I've since learned to be a little more tactful, and I still don't like it, and everybody knows that. I'm a big believer in that. But yeah, that means a lot. I love when I hear people say that, and especially when those guys are like, I have a young daughter, and I'm so thankful for women like yourself. And there are many others like me that are doing this, kind of a different way. I'll say different, not the right way maybe, but just a different way. And it's cool to hear these guys just say, thank you. I want somebody my daughter can look up to. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And, I think that you're one of the only faces, or the most well-known face in the kayak. This is a pretty small niche, right? But for you to be able to make a living in this industry, I'm assuming that's pretty much all your eggs are in this one basket here.
Yes, sir.
You definitely have a lot of influence on how girls will grow up into this sport. And you're basically saying, like, you don't have to go that way. You can hang with the big dogs, but on the other side, you're going to have to hang with the big dogs, in order to make it in the sport. So I think that's kind of cool too. You're saying, like, hey, we're not gonna go this route in the kayak fishing world. We're gonna compete with everybody.
Yeah, well, I do. I feel some ownership there, and that that gives you a little bit of obligation to do things. Take the extra step and do things right.
What are some of the things that you didn't expect to come of? Like, you probably had your sights on this win, the Tournament of Champions. Did you think it was going to be this crazy? Did you think everybody was going to be, wanting to bring you on? Did you think you'd be jumping from podcast to podcast? Like, what are some of the unexpected things that have come out of winning that event?
I'm still kind of letting it all sink in. I've been getting a lot of attention over the years, even for something as simple as just winning a tournament, just a national level tournament. And I kind of took a hiatus from podcasts this entire year. I just started telling everybody no, because I needed some me time. And after this tournament, I kind of figured you know what, it's time to open it back up and start talking again and, you know, start doing this thing. I guess one of the unexpected things from it all was just, this one just seemed different than the other wins I've had. And I get that it was a big one, right? It's my biggest, but I don't know, it just felt different. I had several, and granted, I'm friends with some of the guys on the Elite Series and the MLF, but I had an overwhelmingly large amount of those professional bass boat anglers reaching out to me and just saying like the most incredibly supportive things. And it just kind of like humbled me a little bit. And I was just like, wow, you know, that people noticed this one, you know. It kind of took me by surprise, and I was very grateful for it, but it just the support was just like crazy.
Yeah, and I think there's, you know, a lot of the people that follow kayak fishing, a lot of the people that are, you know, involved in it day to day, we all know who you were. And I think a lot of us, most of us probably weren't surprised at all to, you know, find out that you won this event. But for the people outside of this sport that maybe didn't know Kristine Fischer or, you know, didn't take her seriously or whatever, like, it's a pretty big accomplishment, obviously. And you've gotten close before. Would you take third last year?
Third last year, yeah.
So, I mean, the consistency on the big stage, was it a 3-day event last year as well?
It was a 2-day last year.
What did that extra day do? I mean, that it obviously helped you out in this case, but
it did. Yeah. I think that given where I was last year, Lambert's fish. I know a couple guys went and fished Lambert's fish right after TOC, and they murdered him. He had a good spot. So I don't think I think I may have had winning fish too. I made bad decisions on day 2 that I should have stayed and just kind of milked this area, and I didn't. But I don't think I would have. I know I probably wouldn't have been able to beat him in a 3-day. So it happened exactly how it was supposed to. Marshall getting up there again. So yeah, it happened as it was supposed to.
Heck yeah. All right, I got a bunch of stuff over here. Let me get over in this comment section. What got you started in the outdoors?
Oof, boy, that started when I was a baby. I'm gonna be just right out front and honest with y'all. I was so fortunate to be brought into an extremely outdoors oriented family. I mean, I remember I got pictures of me when I was as little as 2, you know, sitting fishing with my dad and my grandpa. That was kind of a way of life. We grew up, we didn't have a ton of money, and we didn't have a television. And that was one very unique thing about my life that I haven't met. I've only met one other person in my entire life that has never, ever owned a TV in their entire life. And I think that was huge for me because it allowed me to foster a lot of creativity and, you know, learn how to not be bored outside. My brother and I did all kinds of things outside, and I've got my parents to thank for that. I was just brought up that way. I didn't really know any different, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I went to school with a kid. He didn't have a TV, and every time I went over to his house, we had lots of fun. Like,
yeah,
go explore and climb trees and just do all kinds of stuff that cool? I'd probably be stuck at home, you know, watching cartoons in my underwear or something.
Hey, that's not happening either, though.
Yeah, I can't get my kids off the dang video games.
That's what's scary now. Look how like glued we are to these things, right? It's tough for me to kind of see things trending that way, and I'm guilty of it too now with our smartphones and all our devices. I'm just like, man, kids are different now. Kids don't really get to be kids as much as we did when we were growing up. So yeah, that's kind of sad.
Yeah, I mean, the technology, the social media stuff, it's been really good for, you know, putting an eye on this sport that we've all, you know, kind of wanted to see grow and see the spotlight be put on it. Like, that wouldn't have been possible without these silly phones. But it's cool because we can, you know, track you. And, you know, I've seen like on your videos, your parents and your grandparents are at home and they're watching the leaderboards and stuff like that. So it can connect us, but again, at the same time, it's kind of a curse as well because we can get stuck in them and get lost in them. CBG says, be real. How good does it feel to whoop up on a bunch of dudes?
Oh man, we all like to win. I'm weird. Like I love seeing my friends do good. So like, do I like to win and whoop on them? Yeah, it always feels kind of good. But it felt way better like before anybody knew me. Like when I first started fishing the local stuff, and when I would get like a third or a fourth, and they called me up with all the guys, I was like, yeah, I'm the girl here getting the $100 paycheck in this local tournament. That always felt better. But now it's almost kind of like I've kind of gotten used to it. Not used to beating up. That sounds so arrogant. Not used to beating up on all the guys, but like, you know what I mean? I'm another angler, and every once in a while I get lucky,
Yeah. So that kind of brings me back. Yeah. You're kind of used to it now. Like when you first decided, I'm going to go all in on this thing, I'm going to close up shop here in Nebraska, I'm going to go live on the road, and I'm going to be a full-time tournament angler. I don't know that there really was such a thing at that time, or maybe you were one of the first for sure. But when you made that decision, like what were your expectations? Did you kind of did you have a safety net, like just in case you fail, like, okay, I can go back and start over? Or did you just completely move forward in this whole journey?
So here's a good lesson if you want to do something like that and I was just actually talking to a very good friend, Steve Owens, about this exact same thing. And when there's a really good opportunity there, if you tell yourself, what if it doesn't work out, or I need to have a safety net, you're never going to do it with everything you've got. Yeah. So I didn't have a safety net. I didn't have any other option. All I had was the attitude that I'm going to make it work no matter what. And with that attitude, and it took me years to actually make it work. I failed a lot. I couldn't have done it full time. And there were some people in my life at that time that I probably, if I didn't have them, wouldn't have been here, but they were put in my life to kind of keep encouraging me to do this. And my attitude was, there is no going back. And eventually I'm going to make this work.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I've done that in a couple instances where I had opportunities, like, professionally, and I took them and didn't really have anything to fall back on. Like if that would have failed, I'd have been probably working at McDonald's, and yeah. So
yeah, I got no shame in that. I'm always a hustler. If something doesn't work out, I'll find a way to make some money.
Heck yeah. Okay, so this is from my boss, Justin Russell, who has also been on the show.
Hey, Justin.
He kicked our butts in kayaks this year. He's a longtime tournament fisherman, first-time kayak angler. He went out, fished his first event this year, and won. And he ended up winning the state championship as well.
Congratulations, Justin. That's awesome.
So, yeah, he's not allowed to go kayak fishing with us anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, so he says you've had a lot of success in kayak tournaments over the years. What do you think has led you to have more tournament wins and more success this year compared to the past?
So strangely enough, I actually won more tournaments, more national level tournaments 3 years ago, and I had better finishes last year. I had my biggest win this year, but the last 3 years, I think performance-wise, I was fourth in Angler of the Year overall for the Hobie series. I was like 17th for KBF, and I finished like 15th for KBF and second for Hobie this year. So the last couple of years, I feel like I've been pretty consistent, but before that, not so much. And I feel like every year and being more consistent, this is going to sound kind of weird, but when I first started, I remember my first big tournament 5 years ago was on Lake Fork, and I went and bought $1,000 worth of, I did a bunch of research and read about 8 and 10XDs, crankcase bridges, all these things that I didn't really like to do, but I went and bought all this tackle. And when I went down to that tournament, I threw 2 baits, and it was the 2 same baits I throw up in Nebraska. Didn't throw any of that stuff. And what I've learned from spending time on the water, that if you and it doesn't matter like where you are in the country. If you've got a couple of things, a couple of tricks up your sleeves, and you're confident in a few different techniques, you go and you learn how to break down water and find those fish and find those areas, that water body, that you can make those bites work. And for me, that's what I've really focused it on. If there's something I really don't like doing, I don't do it in a tournament. Now, there's a couple techniques that I want to be better at. So I try to discipline myself in the off season or in the off weeks of tournaments. If there's a bite like that going on, I'll go and work on it. When it comes to tournament time, like I'm fishing my strengths. I'm trying to fish my confidence baits, and I'm sticking to that. And every year, the more time you spend in the water, the better you're going to be with your decision making, with your just intuition and noticing subtle nuances on the water. And that's big.
What are some of those baits that you would like to throw, but you just can't stand?
So there's three things that, three techniques that I don't have a ton of confidence in. I can do it, but I don't want to. One of them is deep cranking. In a kayak, it's pretty tough because you almost have to long line to do it effectively. And I don't have the patience to do that. So I didn't throw a deep crankbait. I haven't thrown a deep crankbait in the last 2 years.
Okay.
And I'm talking by deep crank, I'm talking anything over a 5XD. I mean, I maybe like a DT 14 or 16 is about the deepest crank I'll ever throw. And even then, I just don't like doing it. I just don't. Another thing is a big flutter spoon bite. I don't do a lot of that. I haven't really ever gotten a good flutter spoon bite. I want to because I feel like I love fishing that way, but I just haven't. And lastly, drop shot. I hate drop shotting. Hate drop shotting. And interestingly enough, all of those are fairly deep water tactics, you know? And when I first started fishing the national stuff, I did my best the first 2 years fishing deep, fishing offshore. But the last 3 years has all been fairly shallow.
Okay. Well, how do you catch those fish? Like, you still catch those fish just with other presentations, or do you just not even fish for them?
The last couple of years, I haven't, like I said, this year, I think almost all of my fish have been in less than 10 foot of water from January through the TOC. Nice. I could almost safely bet that in the 25 tournaments I fished, all of my fish were in less than 10 foot of water all year, all over the country. So that's pretty crazy, huh? But yeah, I'm fishing deep. I'll throw a football jig. I'll throw a big swim bait. I'll throw an A-rig. I'll do stuff like that. Wobble, a biffle bug. I love throwing a biffle bug out deep. A big scrounger with a jerky jig. Like stuff like that I'll throw. But I'll be honest with you, I don't do as much offshore fishing. And I want to because I love it. But I've just found it's shallow.
You got the electronics for it. You use the live scope quite a bit up shallow then, or?
I don't. And that's so a big reason for getting live scope is because I wanted to get back offshore. And I want to, and that's one thing I've gotten a lot of comments lately from guys. I did that whole video on my new live scope setup, and then you know how much our top kayak anglers made tournament fishing. And there were a lot of comments that were like, yeah, man, it's really almost not fair that people, it's the nicer the setup, you know, it's not fair to people that can't afford to get that because then they can't be competitive. And I was like, well, wait, Jordan Marshall, our Angler of the Year, doesn't own a graph. Drew Gregory, who won Angler of the Year last year, doesn't have a graph. He fishes out of $1,000 paddle kayak. Guillermo fishes out of $1,000 paddle boat, Diablo, and he won 70 grand. So it's like that theory. Let's just take that theory and blow it to smithereens. It's not true. No. I haven't really used my live scope this year at all, save for up in Wisconsin when we were fun fishing. I freaking waxed them with live scope, smallmouth out deep, for fun. But I got it because I want to start working on some of that deep water stuff, and I think live scope can really be effective with that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that there's a whole group of people that they don't like the electronics thing, and I think that really it's just an excuse. I think that I mean, like you say, Drew Gregory, great example there. I mean, Angler of the Year out of a paddle kayak, and then I didn't even realize that Jordan Marshall wasn't using a graph at all. So I love seeing that, even at the local events when the paddle guy whoops up on all the pedal drive guys.
Yeah, it's awesome.
that used to be controversial, but now everybody's got a pedal kayak.
Yeah.
I remember when the clubs were talking about, should we allow pedal kayaks?
I remember that too.
Shout out to your pa. Always looking forward to hearing his excitement when you ring him up on the tourney vids.
Oh, that's awesome. It's so cool to see so many people get into that. You know, I'm going to be totally honest with y'all. I haven't said this before on live, so this is the first time I've said it. But the reason I started recording the phone calls with my grandpa is so I'd have them for when he's no longer here. You know, I can go back and watch my YouTube videos and relive those conversations with him. I didn't think anyone would really get like, you know, kind of love that and get sentimental with that with me. And it's been really cool to see so many people commenting and really kind of attaching to that.
Yeah, I think that, you know, somebody in your position, it's probably a learning process. Like, you want to go do this because you want to do it. You don't want to do it because you want to be famous. But, you know, as you get that fame and that recognition, it really helps people just identify with you, and to see the personal side of things, I think really does go a long way. And I might have teared up on that last video when you called him in the truck.
Oh yeah, I was crying too. I mean, it's okay. I won't tell anybody, John.
Yeah, only everybody that's going to watch this video will know. The tourney win vid you had uploaded was awesome. Definitely got me hyped. Was great coverage. Wish they had coverage like that on the actual tourneys. Would be dope.
Yeah, I wish they would too. I would love to see some like live footage and live stream for our kayak tournaments. We have so many talented guys out there and gals, and it'd just be, I think it'd be pretty cool. And I'm be willing to bet that it's coming down the pipe, maybe a few years out, but yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, obviously we don't have as large of a budget, you know, as you know, Bass does, and you know, on the boat side and stuff like that. But man, I mean, I think there's enough people out there watching those scoreboards that'll keep bringing those views in.
I think so too.
When the bite is tough, what is your confidence bait?
So when the bite's extra tough, I feel like I can catch them like on a fluke pretty good. That, and I have a lot of confidence. I've got this one thing I do that's a little bit different, and I call it, I named it my own thing. I actually caught my 11 pounders down in Florida on this, and it's super versatile. It's like a combination of a swim jig and like a Texas rig. It's essentially a half ounce. I like half ounce is what I use most for this deal. And I peg it real tight, and I take like a Z-Craw and just Texas rig it with a half ounce bullet weight and peg it tight, and I'll swim it and kill it, and swim it through the grass, kind of burn it through like real fast, and kill it and let it, if I can feel it fall, and then I'll kind of swim it slow and just fish it kind of erratically. And I can fish various depths. I love fishing around grass. I can fish it around wood. It's like a finessey type of swim jig. That Z-Craw's got a lot of action, a lot of movement. I'll sometimes do a different trailer, but that bait for me has been really, really good. And it comes through the grass better than about any other bait for me. Yeah.
That's cool. Is the fluke still the caffeine shad? I know that was your deal for a while there. Yeah. Maybe you're not allowed to say that. Sorry.
I'm just nodding.
What is the toughest thing to go through in your kayak tourneys from either not finding fish or trying to find them or figure them out? What's the toughest thing to go through in a kayak tournament?
I think that the hardest thing, I feel like my strength is finding fish. I read water very well. I break down water very well. I think the hardest thing is knowing when to move on from a spot. And I've struggled with that before. Like if I know there's fish there, but sometimes there's definite bite windows throughout the day, and timing is everything. And I think timing actually plays more into fishing than we really like to acknowledge. And I always wonder, you know, I always make sure I've got several different spots, you know, that we'll do little milk runs on. But think the hardest thing is learning when to move on. And if the fish aren't really, and I've tried to start paying attention to kind of everything that's going on. And I feel like sometimes you're just not feeling that spot, you know, and you leave it and you come back and you catch them and you leave it and you do something different. But for me, it's been all about kind of knowing when to leave and when to stay and just wait these fish out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a real formula. So, I mean, have you put a finger on it? Like, I've tried putting a time limit on it on myself before.
I don't think you can do that because I really think that it's intuition, you know, like a little subtle, like sometimes a certain spot that, you know, the weather, you get some cloud cover, a little bit of wind, and you're like, you just like, okay, this is it. Or it's not, and you're just not. It sounds so weird, but the only thing I can explain is you're either feeling it or you're not feeling it. And you got to trust your gut on that. But there's sometimes my gut's very wrong. So it's like, well, shoot, now what? Now what, intuition?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, out of all the, you know, tournaments that you fish, how many tournaments did you fish this year? Have you tallied that up?
I think with the Bassmaster Opens, I think it was like 27, 26,
Wow.
27.
And did you fish any local derbies?
I did fish a TBK, one of Steve-O's.
Okay.
But gosh, no. And that's one thing I miss more than anything is the grassroots. The grassroots level clubs are some of the best organizations, one of the best things for our sport. And there's nothing better than going back home and fishing your local club. And I haven't been able to really do that. I don't really have a home anymore, but even like I consider y'all's club my home club, and Steve-O's club and Duke here in Texas and the Sticks back home. I just would love to show up randomly on a Saturday and be like, hey guys, I'm fishing the local tournament. Let's go catch them, you know? And
we would all certainly love to have you. I think I met you for the very first time was at no, it was at gosh dang it, I just drew a blank. It was at Wanahoo. What's
Wanahoo.
The Halloween event that they always do?
Spooky Bass, yes.
Spooky Bass.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the first time I think I ever met you. I want to say Big Hill was after that one.
That's right. Big Hill was that following spring.
Big Hill was pretty miserable weather-wise.
Terrible. Yeah, there were ice on the guides. I remember that. Fun. That was fun though.
Yeah, you guys are kind of crazy up there. I remember you guys came down they had a kayak or they had a catfish event. I think you came down with Marty and a bunch of that
was some of the wildest stuff I've ever done.
He just posted a picture the other day, and I think it was from that event, and there was all kinds of waves crashing.
He was sitting there like this paddle.
Yeah, just like
that picture is infamous.
Yeah, that's fishing in Kansas for you.
Yeah,
pretty much. Okay, so did you start musky fishing in Nebraska? Was that it?
Well, yes and no. I actually started, kind of doing that stuff in Minnesota. Growing up, we every summer when I was a kid, we went up and fished the boundary waters with my family. I did that. I mean, my family still was up there. It's kind of a family deal. My grandpa took my dad took us. But yes, like very seriously, I started fishing for him in Nebraska 10 years ago now, probably, out of a cheap little kayak I bought and just fell in love with it. I started doing that before I started fishing the grassroots bass tournaments. I didn't really bass fish much, to be honest with you. I'd rather catch muskie, Yeah,
you kind of grew up doing like the walleye and the perch thing.
Yep. Walleye, pike, perch, muskie. Yeah, that was really all we did. So
now you mentioned like feeding periods and stuff. Does that have anything to do with your knowledge of muskie? Like how has muskie fishing changed your approach to bass fishing?
Well, because just like bass fishing, when I'm muskie fishing, I'm thinking about more along the lines of like, what is the prey doing? What's the main forage and what are they doing? Where are they hiding? How are they acting? And I think that translates right into bass fishing. A lot of times we're thinking like, what are the bass doing or the muskie? But if you figure out what the bait is doing, then you understand what the prey or the predator is doing. And yeah, Muskie's all about timing, all about just barometric pressure changes. Even just like a rising or a falling barometric pressure can turn a bite on. And I think that goes right into bass fishing, especially when you're talking trophy bass fishing. If you're going for a trophy, a true trophy, you better be paying attention to the barometric pressure, to the moon phases, it's a straight up science, just like musky fishing.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Talking about trophy bass fishing, have you gotten very big into the swim bait fishing?
Jordan Westerman has tried so hard to get me over to that dark side, and I've been very reluctant because I'm like, man, I feel like
you just might get stuck on it.
Yeah, because I love musky fishing, and those baits are so similar to what some of the guys throw for bass. I'm just like, nope, I want to keep the two worlds separate, and I want to do this for bass. Now I need to. I think it would be really addicting, and obviously it is. But I feel like swim bait fishermen it's almost like a cult world.
Yeah,
there's like a cult following for swim baits.
It is.
It's kind of intimidating.
It is. We've had some swim bait guys on the podcast. We had Oliver, obviously.
Oliver's a great dude. Yeah.
But we had Edwin Chardon. He's the maker of Legal Dope swim baits, which I actually won a local event on one of his baits here.
That's a good looking bait.
Oh yeah, and then we also had Peyton Stumpf. He's a painter, and this is a Chad, but he actually paints baits full time. Like that's what he does for a living. Wow. He paints swim baits, so it's even more niche than just being a lure painter. So it's kind of crazy that we have all these opportunities in the fishing industry. You don't necessarily have to be a kayak angler like yourself. Hell, I sell fish finders for a living.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, that's how we get into it. Is you find ways to work in the industry so you can be in the industry.
Yeah,
I did freelance writing for years and years in the outdoors industry, so I get that.
But yeah, I think the swim bait thing it would be a really good tool to have on your belt. But it's like once you get into it, you might go so far down that rabbit hole you never throw your.
I know. You never. I'm not intimidated. I'm just like, gosh, do I want to, like you said, do I want to go down that rabbit hole? Not sure yet.
Daniel wants to know if you plan on fishing the All-American Kayak Classic next year.
So I'm gonna totally be honest with y'all. The All-American Kayak Classic, what Tyler and Josh are kind of doing with that thing is phenomenal. I wanted to fish one last year and it couldn't make sense of my schedule. I actually wrote all of the events down. There is a conflict with every single one of them this year, which is just, man, it's like a good and a bad thing. As kayak anglers, it's great because we have all this opportunity. But, Matt Scotch and Guillermo and I was talking about this on the way back from our hunting trip. We were like, did you guys see the big bass $1,000 an hour thing Vinny Ferrari put up just yesterday? It's like, well, like, holy cow, there's 5 more events that are coming out. It's like, man, how are we supposed to choose what to do? So to make a long story short, it's going to kind of depend on how my season's going. If I'm sitting okay to make my goals is always to make the classics, the turn into championships, try to make the 10. If my angler of the year points are doing well, AKA if I'm not slacking off like at the beginning of the year, definitely have hopefully 2 All-Americans in the middle to end of the year that I can hopefully make. I think Truman is that one of the ones that's in the middle?
Truman is the classic.
That's the classic.
Yeah. Yes. So they're open events. So Wilson is one that I did this year. It's the only one that I fished, but they're going to come back to Wilson again, which is an awesome.
Classic's Truman. And how do you can you remind me real quick? Is the classic you have to finish in the top percentage of AOI or finish in the top?
Yes, but I believe they're doing an event the day before, or they have in the past to like where you could a shootout. There you go. Yeah. So I'm not 100%.
Yeah. Maybe if they fall off, I can go fish the shootout.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Heck yeah. Yeah, they do. They run a really, really cool thing. And
those guys do a great job.
Okay, so we've got another one here. Extra may give you an extra edge for deep, but that's it. Mainly fishing shallow, barely matters. Oh, talking about live scope.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Perspective mode, I was actually using perspective mode down on Caddo on the cypress trees in like 5 foot of water. And
Yep.
I could every once in a while, see a bass sitting off of a cypress tree in 5 foot of water with perspective mode. So,
Yeah.
like I said, when I'm fishing shallow, I'm probably not going to do that. I'm going to just cast at everything and just fish instinctively rather than rely on electronics that shallow.
One thing that perspective mode can do for you is it'll just key you in on bait too.
Right. Absolutely.
Grass lines, it's really good for identifying grass lines or finding like, where your bottom composition might change from hard to soft. You can actually see those lines because you have that overhead view. I run the Mega 360 and it's basically the same thing as perspective mode. But yeah, it can definitely help out in shallow water. It's not just a deep water thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got a question for you here. What has been the most challenging part of living on the road?
Oof. Probably the hardest thing is like self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Like the eating good and getting some exercise, or implementing any type of routine. There is really no there's no room for routine living on the road. It's all over the place. It is kind of a life of chaos. And even if you have good intentions of starting a routine, it's pretty tough to maintain it. For me, I'm okay with that. I can usually adapt and kind of roll with the punches pretty good. But I'm not going to lie, like coming home to an actual home is a very good feeling.
Yeah.
And I definitely missed that. When I got to go home and see my parents and go to an actual house, it was great. And the other thing I miss about it is when you're living on the road. If any of y'all have spent time in an RV or a camper, they make the toilet paper they make is like the ply is like super, super thin. So if you go from using that for like 3 years to like going to a regular roll of toilet paper, it feels like the cloth of the heavens. It's so soft and luxurious. So it's like little things you take for granted.
Yeah. I can imagine. I'm sure there are times when you're on the road and you're just like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah, I think that often, but then at the same time, I'm like, yeah, I'm living my best life. It's not all. A lot of people romanticize life on the road, and that's one thing I wanted to be very careful about not doing. Is I wanted to say, look, I get to live. I have all this freedom. I'm this little travel gypsy. I go to these beautiful places because that's just not reality. And the thing is, it's like, no matter what we're doing, you can look at someone who's a multi-billionaire and has houses all over the country. You better believe their life is not perfect. I mean, we all have problems no matter where we are in life. And the thing that I've learned is it's about your disposition. I say that a lot. So I want to make sure people know, like, hey, I still have plenty of issues and things happening and flat tires and road problems and the not being able to have a good meal here because there's not a gas station within 50, 60 miles or, whatever it may be. Life's always going to be like this no matter what you're doing. But
yeah, heck yeah. Yeah. You gotta be realistic about it. That's for sure.
100%.
CBG wants to know, how do you approach a tournament? So maybe leading up to the event, pre-fishing, map study, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I have a pretty standard routine. I do a lot on Google Earth history. So you have to have that on your Mac, like your desktop. You can't do it on your cell phone, but you can go back. A lot of the lakes that I fish have a drawdown, like a winter pool period where they lower the lakes. So you can take the history and go back in time to where the lakes are drawn down and just take Google Earth and zoom in and cruise those bank lines. And a lot of times I do that in the backs of these creeks from the main lake, and you'll see a ton of like either brush piles or lay downs or rock piles or transitions from hard to soft bottom or chunk rock to mud. And I always make note of that stuff. And if I find a creek that's got a lot of character, I like to focus in on that. I also look for little sneaky areas like little sloughs or backwater ponds or areas that have a lot of diversity. And then I'll take the stuff that I like on Google Earth and I'll compare it with then like a Navionics, like a contours chart, and look and see kind of how that sets up. And so when I do all that map study, then I'll go and drive around and kind of look at the water. And we all have like a certain, like you're either a clear water fisherman, you're a muddy water, or you're like that kind of in between. Do you feel like that's pretty true?
I hate clear water. I just want to say that.
I do too. I lean towards the muddy water, so that's why I very rarely will fish way down south by a dam. You'll almost never find me fishing that like that. So I like looking for that water that's got a little color to it. And 9 times out of 10, I won't even look at the bottom half of a map. I'll look up in the river parts or up in the mid to upper lake part of wherever I'm fishing and kind of go from there. I'll do some research, like any of us do. We'll Google just some information on the lake sometimes. But oftentimes, a lot of us, we can watch old Bassmaster Elites and stuff like that and see what people are doing. That can be really dangerous, though, because I firmly believe that just because Paul and I got on an offshore crank and bite here doesn't mean that I can catch them like that. So I try not to look at how other people catch them on these bodies of water, but I look at the body of water and I think this time of year, these fish should be relating to stuff like this. And then I get on the water and I try to figure out how I can make my fish eat. Yeah.
Something I just thought about, we did a video with RMP on how to take those waypoints that you've set with Google Earth.
Yeah, and you can put them right into your graph.
Yeah, and then now you can actually overlay those waypoints on your contours, so you can kind of make some of your, you know what I'm saying.
It's cool. Yeah, that's a huge help.
Kristine is bringing them out tonight. That must have been when you announced your first ever.
Yeah.
I agree. Timing is everything with these river fisheries. Delaware still puzzles me. Differences in behavior happen so often.
We do. I think the Delaware I think that's a tidal fishery. I think, right?
I think so.
And that's a whole different animal. Timing with tidal fisheries is everything. I wish I knew a little bit more about that, but I don't.
Have you've probably fished a couple, haven't you?
I fished a few. I've never fished the James. I've never fished the Delta. Those are two of the most infamous ones, like at least for the pro bass tours,
Yeah.
But I fished a couple, and they're entirely different animals. If you want to talk about a pattern changing daily, go to a tidal fishery.
Yeah, that scares me. I don't catch enough fish as it is. So
yes, you do.
What about like sponsorship opportunities? How does that come about, and like how do you feel about it, and how do you think some of those opportunities are maybe growing?
So the sponsorship thing, I've seen this because I've done a lot of things in the industry, from working part-time as like a media buyer. And I have a lot of connections with some of the larger brands that I kind of hear some of the talk and I'm given advice even sometimes. And I also am sponsored. That's how I make my living, is through my sponsorships. And the cool thing is that I've seen a lot of eyes open to the kayak fishing world. And I know some of the guys now are getting some actual, paid sponsor opportunities, which is awesome. Like that's so good for our sport. Interestingly enough, and this is a really controversial topic because the landscape is changing. I just did a call with In Fishermen. They had me as a guest speaker a couple weeks ago, and there were probably 100 of us on that call. And the big topic was, with social media, and sponsors really don't care about your tournament performance anymore, that's a tough pill to swallow, right?
As the champion, I mean, that doesn't mean anything.
Right. I mean, it's tough. Well, it's like, what do you mean it doesn't? Well, here's the deal. the landscape is changing, and sponsors care about social media, and primarily they're putting a lot into YouTube because they don't care about your tournament if you can't sell product. If you can't represent their brand in a certain way. And that's been tough for a lot of the guys. They're like, well, man, this isn't fair. I'm one of the best fishermen out there. Like, how come I'm not getting these opportunities? And we have to stop having that attitude. Instead of saying, well, that's not fair, I deserve this. You need to figure out what you need to do to earn that opportunity. And that's what I was lucky that I kind of, instead of going after, I wanted to be good at the tournament scene, but at the same time, I worked double as hard trying to build my brand. 5-6 years ago, I put a lot of emphasis into trying to grow that so that I could have this very well-rounded portfolio in case sponsorships did ever come my way, and it's paid off tremendously.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, YouTube, obviously, you've done really well on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and all these other things. You've done a really good job about putting yourself out there. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is what can you offer them? I mean, they're not just giving you money because you're good at fishing. You're absolutely right. You got to sell their product, and the more opportunities that people like you have like that, the more our sport is going to grow. The more.
That's exactly right. The more eyes, and that's what I'm trying to do with having the YouTube channel and doing all the stuff in the kayak industry. I want more of these large non-endemics and these big brands to look at our sport and invest into our anglers. Because a lot of my friends do this, and I want my friends and all of y'all to have some incredible opportunities. So I'm hoping, and I think some good things are coming.
Absolutely. It's come a long way since I started the club in 2015. Yeah. That's not that long ago, but this kayak fishing scene looked totally different back then.
It did, yeah.
So, I think we're still on the cusp of something really big, and you got to be a part of the first wave. So, congrats on that.
It takes a tribe.
took a gamble, and it paid off.
Mm-hmm.
How many days do you typically spend pre-fishing for a tournament?
So, I think that for me, 3 to 4 is like my magic number. This year, I think I was right there at about 3.5 days average for all the national tournaments. And that's for me is perfect. I know there's some people that think that having a week is really good. I disagree with that because so much changes in 7 days, or even like 5 or 6 days, that if you find something out on the first day and then things change, it can mess with your head so bad. And there's also a theory about not having enough time. I fished a couple tournaments forward where I've only had a day to practice, and you can still get it done, but it is a little more difficult to really understand what's going on. So I like to have that 3.5 days is like perfect.
Okay. Heck yeah. And this is one I had written down too. How many days did you fish this year, do you think?
Oh gosh. I'm probably easily over 300.
Really?
Yeah, easily. Because think about all the days that I'm not tournament fishing, I'm still fishing. I love to fish. So the only days I really didn't fish is when I was traveling had my road days, I would say close to probably 300.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
That's awesome. You learn a lot. There's probably a lot of bad days of fishing in there too, where you might not have caught them, but did you learn something from it,
But most of the time, yes. Sometimes I'm just like, man, I'm a terrible angler.
Jacob says, come on back to Big Hill.
Man, I like Big Hill. That was a fun fishery, despite the inclement weather. I would like to come back to Big Hill. That y'all's King of the Hill event, that I wanted to make down that one so bad. That always drew some big numbers, and I would like to go back to the old Big Hill.
You know who liked that one? I think it was Josh Workman. He sure liked that one. Yeah. He'd come down and whoop up on us. And then
back to Big Hill. Yeah.
Jacob's pretty good at fishing big hill, but there's a lot of us, myself included, that don't really care for big hill too much.
Yeah, that was kind of an interesting fishery.
What has been your top producing bait in the tournaments?
Probably probably a buzz bait or a spinner bait or a swim jig. That Texas swim I was talking about, that does a lot of damage for me. The workhorse bait, caught some fish doing some heavy flipping. Caught a lot of fish flipping this year. So a lot of fish, actually. Some of my bigger fish have come flipping.
What's your favorite flipping bait?
So it depends. I've got a couple. I like that Z-Man goat is freaking phenomenal. That elastic has that bait float. It's got a great profile. It's awesome.
And then our half ounce there too.
Depends. With them flipping, like for the tournament of champions, and a couple of tournaments, I'll usually have like half ounce, a 3/4, and even up to an ounce sometimes to get through, around some little heavier stuff.
Yeah, you were flipping in some real heavy stuff on one of your recent videos way back, right? Was that the Tournament of Champions?
No, that one wasn't. The Tournament of Champions, I think the heaviest I went was 3/4 ounce.
Yeah, I don't know what video I'm thinking of, but you were flipping way back into something.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of that this year. That's fun. I like doing that.
Oh, he's talking about bait that Edwin's working on, the Legal Dope swim baits, the Tum Tum. Shout out to Legal Dope. Okay, let's see. Yeah, this one here, I just fished it like a crankbait. It's a wake bait. It'll work.
It's a wake bait, right? That looks like a killer wake bait.
But it cranks down. You can crank this thing down to about 5 or 6 foot.
Really?
And the cool thing about it is this bill, the way that it's designed, you don't get the hooks caught on anything. See that?
Oh wow! Something does it blow? Does it roll over though, or does it
just rolls right over it? It's okay. I was throwing it in trees and grass and all kinds of stuff. I was actually catching fish in grass mats that had about maybe a foot of water on top of it, and just working this thing over the top of it. So,
oh wow, that's awesome.
It goes through anything. I definitely became a believer in that thing. Like a giant square bill. Peyton Stump stopped by to say hello. If you guys need a Chad, that's become a recent craze. He's the man to go to on that. He just did a custom Justin Royal Royal Shad paint scheme for Justin Royal, and you can get those over at Baitworks in Springfield. Have you ever stopped through there?
I haven't.
Pretty badass place.
Is it? I need to.
Yeah, it's like if you were to open a tackle shop, it's pretty much what it would look like. I mean, it just has all the good stuff. It's when you go into a Cabela's or whatever, a big box store, there's just a bunch of yeah. I mean, this is just like all the good stuff. What's your preferred fishing line?
Well, are you like preferred brand or pound test, or kind of what I use the most, or well, I like I've been using that Berkeley X9 for braid. I'm honestly for a lot of my main line on my spinning reels, and then for up to like 30 pound on my casting setup. And then the X5 for like frogging and then some topwater stuff too, and some punching and some heavier flipping. My leader line for like spinning rods, I'm pretty particular about that. I'm a big and for my leader line on spinning setups, I'll do anything from like 6 to 12 pound test. And I like I've always been big on FC Sniper, always. But lately, with my Berkeley deal, that 100% fluorocarbon is tough to beat for the price. And I use that a lot like, here's the thing. A lot of people, and this is I'm almost interested to hear people say about this, but with your casting setups, are you a straight braid guy? Are you a straight fluoro, or do you do a mainline braid and just tie a big fluoro leader on? See, I don't like having a leader on my casting setups. I know sometimes it makes sense, but I'd almost rather, I'm so much more comfortable on a lot of my stuff with just straight fluoro, except for, you know, like my swim jig rod, my frogging rod, and some flipping and punching. Obviously, I do straight braid. But I don't like even if it is an FG knot, you got a great knot. I don't like doing braid to fluoro on my casting stuff. I never have, but I don't think I'll ever get over that. But I know there's so much good science to why it's better. I just would rather run straight fluoro.
Is it just because you don't like the knot running through the guides, or?
I don't know if it's just the knot. The knot's probably a big hang up for me, but on top of that, I just feel like I like the way, I like the feel of just straight floral with some things.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Or straight braid even.
Oh, straight braid's even better because it's a little more sensitive. But I don't like having a leader. I don't have a great reason for it.
Just ask Marco Munoz. He's kicked our butts for a lot of years, and he is a straight braid. He runs braid on everything. Yeah, he doesn't use fluorocarbon.
Yeah, a lot of people do, and they do fine. I do really like straight fluoro on some things. I use a lot of
fluorocarbon. I don't use a whole lot of braid, but I did try out the FC Sniper for the first time this year on my swim bait setup, and I'm a fan.
It's good line.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
No.
What did you think of the drastic water change at the Bass Championship earlier this year? You said you did fairly well, but I couldn't find the right spot until too late, he says.
The water change, I actually liked it because it came up and it had some color to it. Remember when I said I wasn't a huge fan of clear water? However, what that did, I had a good practice fishing deep grass, ironically down south in clear water. But when that mud came down, it pushed all those fish out of that grass. But what that did for me with muddier water and water that came up a little bit, it allowed me to fish. I don't know if y'all watched the video on that, but I fished a big walking bait all day long. And I went and just ran the bank, and anywhere I could find a stretch of shade, didn't matter if it was 12 o'clock noon, the sun was high, I threw a topwater bait from the first cast to last cast, all I threw, and caught fish on topwater. I caught my big 22-incher on that big walking bait against a bluff wall in like a 3-foot shade area, like little 3-foot patch outcropping of just a shady spot sitting right there. So I was looking for shade.
Heck yeah. Yeah, sometimes it can happen like that. I mean, it might just be this little tiny patch of grass or shade or whatever, but
when that water gets muddy, it usually will push those fish right up to the bank, and you just have to figure out what they're keyed in on, you know?
Yeah. Heck yeah. Yeah, that's probably why I like fishing muddier water, because they're a little bit more predictable.
Yes, I think so too.
I got a few more questions for you, and then we'll probably turn you loose. You spent probably an hour or so before this on the podcast, so we definitely appreciate you tuning in. And
absolutely,
all of the Midwest people that are tuning in right now, we claim you as one of our own. You know, you're not a Nebraskan, you're a Midwestern. Okay,
absolutely, yep. And I'll always be a Midwesterner for sure.
How has being from Nebraska or being from the Midwest helped you get to where you are? Like, how have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, I think, but this is going to be kind of a strange answer, because I think being from the Midwest didn't help me in the fishing per se, but more so like it helped me because the Midwestern people are just known for being great people. You know, they give the shirt off your back. They're genuinely really good character. It's just the Midwest is known for having really good people. You know, you've got the steering wheel and the 2-finger wave, you know, and everyone is just friendly. And I think that having that type of an upbringing and be surrounded by just really good-hearted, genuine, you know, blue-collar, hard-working, small-town people from the Midwest has helped me in my networking and my meeting other people in the fishing industry and kind of getting my name out there and making some incredible connections. So, you know, did the bass fishing in Nebraska help me get to where I am? Probably not. Nebraska doesn't have that great of bass fishing, but the people in the Midwest and area, yeah, absolutely. I think that has been huge, just seeing the amazing community that the Midwest is.
Something that I have wondered, Kansas bass fishing kind of isn't great either, but
Better than Nebraska.
is it? I don't know, because you guys up there, you guys have it dialed. I mean, you've got a lot of big national tournament wins. You've got a lot of you and Nate, and of course everybody knows who Marty is. And the Workmans. Yeah, I mean, like, you have all these guys that really could compete probably on a national scale. And some of them have proven, like yourself, that they can. Like, does some of that come from going through the struggle and having to figure out how to catch these fish in these maybe tougher conditions, these less than ideal conditions? Does that make bass fishing in other parts of the country easier for you? I mean, I don't know.
I haven't really ever thought of it that way, but maybe it does. Because there's not as many fish or as big a fish. We have to work a little harder maybe to figure them out. I never really thought of it that way, but now that you say it, yeah, we've got some pretty good sticks in the Midwestern Nebraska area for sure. And
James Francis,
another incredible angler. That's a great point. Maybe having just kind of mediocre fishing is the key to. Yeah, Richie McMichael down there in Kansas, Missouri, Oh,
yeah. Mel Ash. I mean, there's a bunch of them around, but maybe that has something to do with it. And then maybe the other part of it is, like, if you're dumb enough to be addicted to bass fishing in Kansas or Nebraska, then you really are ate up, like, truly, like, you're never going to be able to shake it, because just imagine if you grew up in Texas,
Right.
But I don't know. I've thought about it, and I asked Marty, and he didn't really know how to answer it either. It's like, I don't know. My brain just went there. Let's see. There was another one tied to that one that I was wanting to ask. One question. If you were the host of the podcast and you had your favorite angler, first of all, who would you pick? And then second of all, what is one thing that you would want to take away from them in order to, make yourself a better angler? One piece of knowledge that you would want to take away from that conversation. That's a tough one.
I would probably have, and a lot of people would probably say this, but I think that there's reason why so many people would say this. I'd probably have like a Rick Klein, who's been someone who's been an iconic angler throughout, the decades of his career. So he's seen not only the landscape change professionally, like with the sponsorships and all this, but he's also seen the landscape change with the technology.
Yeah.
And I think I would ask him, what has he learned over his years during his career? How has he had to adapt? And is he finding, what is one old school mindset that he uses and applies to present day that helps him over everybody else, the younger generation?
Yeah. Heck yeah. No, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody like him may have an advantage to not even use electronics, at all.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said intuition goes a long ways. And sometimes LiveScope is just going to prove to you that those fish really aren't going to bite.
Exactly. It can be very frustrating.
So, well, I do want to thank you for coming on the show. I've been wanting to get you on here for a while, and I guess it's a good thing I waited to ask, because I would have been told no.
I would have felt really bad about saying no to you too, but I did take a little break, but now it's time to open it back up, and I can't thank you enough for having me on.
And if you do want to swing by and fish one of these events, we're gonna be doing this series under the Kansas Kayak Anglers. We're all gonna just kind of unite as one and see how it goes. But maybe we'll see you at a All-American event or something like that. But
so.
We're all rooting for you. We're all cheering you on, and keep doing your thing. And hopefully we'll have you back on here one of these days.
Would absolutely love to. I miss all you guys in the Midwest, and I hope I get to see y'all soon.
Heck yeah. All right, go kill some more birds.
I will. Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Have a good one. All right, guys. So that's going to be a wrap for episode 33. Pretty hard to believe that we're already at episode 33, and pretty cool that we're able to get some guests on, like Kristine Fischer, for the smaller, audience that we have. I mean, the idea of Behind the Reel was started to cater to the people right here in Wichita, Kansas. People in Kansas, really, whether you're Northeast, Southeast, Flint Hills. But my main focus was to let this be a platform for the anglers right here in the area. And we're still definitely going to continue to do that. So guys, don't think that because we're having, some bigger guests on the show, that's going to go away. We're still going to bring on winners of these events and definitely give them the highlight that they deserve, and try to put more of a spotlight on kayak fishing right here in the Midwest. Kristine Fischer is a great representative of the sport. Really excited to have met her a couple times and have chatted with her over the years. Always willing to help. I was trying to get into the Musky thing, which I never actually did. Got into some pike stuff, but she definitely shared some knowledge with me along the way. And yeah, man, just, if you've got daughters that want to be able to follow their dreams and their passions, I think that you can't help but root for Kristine, because she's definitely kicking some butt in a male dominated sport. And I don't know, I'm a big fan, and really appreciate having her on the show. I'm sure a lot of you guys did. I really appreciate your interaction over here in the comments as well. Also, something else that I would like from you guys, a little bit more interaction, is letting me know who you guys want to bring on the show. So I have been, solely in charge of scheduling guests and stuff like that. So if you guys have somebody, maybe I'm overlooking some local people, or maybe there's even some people that are on the more national scene that maybe you have contact with, or that you just enjoy watching their YouTube channel. We brought Oliver Nye on, and he obviously has a very big following. We're going to be talking to Justin Royal here pretty soon, and he's got a big following as well. I mean, okay, so we already got a recommendation over here, Mike Iaconelli. I think that's a great one. That might be a little, you might be shooting a little high there, Jacob, but it's certainly, man, I mean, I don't know. I bet Kristine and Oliver might be able to just be able to help me land that one. But yeah, notes, definitely keep making those recommendations. I really do appreciate it. But like I said, we're going to have Justin Royal on here in the coming weeks. And then another one that you guys should check out too, if you haven't seen him already, he's all over social media, Marshall Arnwine, and he is the homeless fisherman on Instagram. And he has some really cool, he's a swim bait guy. He fishes out of a stand-up paddle board, pretty cool. And he's always got big fish featured on his channel there. Dan, I think that is a great recommendation right there. That is a local legend, Ken Shippy. For those of you guys that don't know Ken Shippy, I don't think there's anybody that has anything bad to say about the guy, other than he kicks our butts quite often. And man, he is a hammer. He is up from around the Horton area, I believe, up north. And he fishes a lot of the Northeast stuff, and I think some of the Flint Hill stuff. And the last time I saw him was out at Banner Creek, up and around Holton. We got another recommendation. We got Scott Martin. So yeah, I like your guys' ambition here. Help get me in contact with some of these guys, if you will. Bill Dance, see these guys, they can't be hard to get a hold of, right? Randy Blockett and his love for LifeScope. That might be a good one. He's a pretty controversial. He has a pretty controversial YouTube channel. So we might have some fun. We might have some fun going back and forth on some of his thoughts. But yeah, guys. Also, one more thing, I do want to give another shout out to Outdoorsman Coffee Company. I can smell it through the bag. It's delicious. I drink it every morning. I know Daniel Maffei's a big fan of it. Save yourself 20%, ACKA 20. And then another shout out to Triple P Customs. This is not the Royal Shad, but he, as mentioned earlier, is going to have a special color for Justin Royal, and they're calling it the Royal Shad. And somebody was asking up here if it was going to be available soon, and Peyton, who is Triple P Customs, says within the next month. So I think those are only going to be available at Baitworks. Like I mentioned earlier with Kristine, Baitworks has been, or they just carry all the good stuff, including these Chad Shads. So the KGB Chad Shads are made somewhat locally, and they have been able to get their hands on some of the KGB swim baits. So I think they've had some of the Legends and some of the Bensons and stuff, and they even have KGB's new line of swim bait rods as well. And they have some packages where you can actually get a rod and a bait together. So, okay, we got some more recommendations here. John B. Okay. Britney Spears, When She Had No Hair. I don't think we can go back in time. But again, like if you've got the resources, we can jump in a DeLorean and we can get her on the show. Oh, Casual Bass Guys wanting to know what the entry fee is for the Moyak Winter Series event out at Table Rock. So I'm going to go look here and see what I can find out. Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry, I want to know for myself as well. If anybody in the comments knows, post it up in the live chat there. I think I'm going to have to go to Tourneys. Okay, let's see here. No. Okay, December 11th. Okay, so entry fee. No, this isn't it. This is the Team Winter Series. So that is something else to mention, that there is going to be a team event held in conjunction with this solo event as well. So if you want to fish both, you can. Let me go back over here to the live chat, see if I'm behind. Yes, we did have Jay Schwartzkopf on the phone. I do, or on the, sorry, not on the phone, but on the show. I do recall we did have some technical difficulties, but I want to say we actually had him on the show twice. I think he was on for the Wilson event. We kind of had a group thing going on there. And then, okay, this is the team one. And then I believe we had him on a solo show, or possibly maybe with one other guest. I don't recall. But Jay has been on the show twice, I believe. Okay, so it looks like the entry fee is $58. The trash pot is an additional $5. The non-member fee is $15. So you could rack up a little under $100 here if you do that, and then another $28 for the team series side of it. So we got Stoney Floyd currently and Justin Maples from Kansas. I will be joining them as well, as long as my COVID test
comes back negative. I'm actually currently being quarantined because my son did test positive for COVID. So thankfully he has no symptoms and he has felt just fine. But we have been trapped in the same house for the last 5 or 6 days or however many days since Friday. So the chances are pretty high that I probably do have it. I have not been vaccinated, but I actually am thinking about getting vaccinated to help keep my grandparents from getting it. But yeah, so you're looking at $58 entry, $5 trash pot, $15 non-member fee. So it may be in your best interest to reach out to Josh Booth if you do want to fish this event, to see if maybe you become a MOYAC member, if possibly that could carry over into next year. If you're just now, paying your entry fee. I don't know if that's possible, but it'd definitely be worth shooting him a message and seeing if he would entertain the idea there. Nate Gloria, that is another good one. He has definitely done well on the national scene, and he's come around and whooped up on us a time or two, I think, around here even. Casual Bass Guy, what are you talking about? I definitely couldn't have done that myself. I'm not sure what you're referring to there. Austin Applegate, yeah, I know he's been mixing things up a bit in the Flint Hills group. But the cool thing, guys, I just want you to know I really am excited about this Kansas Kayak Anglers thing that we have going on for next year. I think it's going to be a really cool opportunity for us all to get together. In years past, we have taken we have actually been able to fish each other's events. And, we would see a lot of really it's been since before the Southeast Club and the Northeast Club have been around, because when it was just Air Capital in Northeast, there wasn't a whole lot of events to choose from. So we would kind of go fish each other's events. But then as, the other two clubs came about, it just fills everybody's schedule up. So I think that the cool thing about us all combining is it'll give us time to also still be able to do events around home, and maybe even give you time to free up and go fish some national events as well. But I really do miss being able to fish with the NECA guys, and the Southeast guys have definitely come and fished a lot of our events, so we appreciate them for sure. But I'll be honest, the Air Capital guys haven't fished a lot of their events. So I'm just really excited to put everything all on one schedule, have everybody, come in and fish a tournament, and the camaraderie that'll be involved in that. But then also the entry fees or the payouts rather are going to be much higher. We're going to have more attendance. If we can get 40, 50, 60 guys at an event, we're going to be able to pay out higher, and we're going to be able to pay out further down the field. So those are all reasons why I'm excited about KK. I know there's a couple people that probably aren't happy about it, and they feel like maybe the local clubs are dying, but I can assure you that's not the case. I know with the Air Capital Kayak Anglers, I plan on doing more community-based events, and we'll probably have a couple, tournaments, but we haven't done anything to really give back in the last couple years, so I kind of want to get back to doing that. Steve Lutz would be another good one to have on. He is one of the founders of the Flint Hills Kayak Anglers. Shad Schaefer, he did join us, I think, for just a real brief period of time, maybe to give a shout out or something like that. But yeah, I don't think we've actually sat down with him and had a whole entire episode. So that would be a good one. We've had a couple of the other bubble guppies or whatever they call themselves on. Yeah. CBG says, let's get T-Rel on. You know what? I was actually texting Terrell the other day, and I was trying to get him sold on doing a community event. So he's kind of known for giving back to the community, and some things he's done is he gives away shoes to kids, and he'll roll up to Walmart and he'll have like 300 pairs of shoes, and he's just giving them out to
to kids, and he's done some things for the community. And I told him that I wanted to have a Gone Fishing with T-Rel event where kids are able to come out and we could have activities for them, and we could feed them, and we could teach them how to tie knots and teach them how to throw different lures, and just make a whole day out of it, and for him to be the face of it. So yeah, I'm actually hey, something like that could happen, man. It really could. So I know you probably thought that was a far out there suggestion, but T-Rel could happen for sure. Shout out to T-Rel. He's from Topeka, Kansas, and he's a friend of mine from back in the day, and he's doing really well. I love to see my friends doing well, and especially being able to chase their dreams and their passions. That's something that Kristine Fischer, has done in fishing, and that's something T-Rel has done in music for sure. Clayton Westgate, we have had him on. That may have been a group one as well, but he has been on the show. What's up, Kelly? Cyber Yacker, what's up, man? Cyber Yacker down there in Texas. Seen his channel kind of blow up a little bit here recently, and gain some subscribers and whatnot down there. Shout out to him. I think I've been Facebook friends with him since pretty much I started fishing, and I think he's ate up with fishing just as much as I am. He's currently rocking the Hobie, but it's one thing that Cyber Yacker is known for is going through kayaks like they're crazy. So I think since I've met him, he's probably owned about 20 different kayaks. So shoot over a comment in the live chat if you can relate to that. Cole Spriggs, heck yeah, Cole. I think he was a group one. Davis Custom Rods. I definitely do want to do some more video work with Davis Custom Rods, and a live one would make sense. They do some live stuff on Facebook to kind of showcase some of the rod building that they do. So yeah, definitely would like to see Davis Custom Rods on the channel a little bit more. They have been supportive of the Air Capital kayak anglers, and DJ's got a beautiful rod that they built for him for winning Angler of the Year in the Air Capital group. Tim Seagraves. So Dan shouted him out, and then here he is in the comments. So what's up, Tim? Joe Douglas. That is another one, and he is a character. So he would be rather entertaining, I feel like. Another member of the Bubble Guppies, I think. I might be getting that name wrong, but I think it's like the Bubble Guppies or something like that. We've had Jeff Scott on here for doing well in an event, and I think winning another event. So yeah, I mean, we could definitely get some of these guys on. We definitely will. We'll have a lot of downtime, this winter, where we won't have a lot of tournaments, obviously, to pull guests from. So we definitely will dig into some of these suggestions here. But yeah, guys, make sure you shoot me a message on Facebook, or shoot me a text or whatever, and let me know who you guys want to see in the future, and if you have any connections that might help land us a guest, that would be much appreciated as well. Another thing too, I just want to circle back around on is the night fishing thing that Justin Maples is putting on. I haven't seen a whole lot of talk surrounding it, so I really don't know what to expect as far as attendance goes, but I definitely do look forward to fishing some of these night events. I've never really done night fishing. I've never really night fished for bass. It's something that I have said for years that I wanted to get into. Guys, let me know. Is this something that you do? Is it something that you do during the warmer months? Have you had success with it? But I definitely would like to get into that. And I think this would be a great opportunity to explore the world of night fishing. We've got some really cool opportunities to go fish over in Missouri and explore some of the Ozarks lakes over there. And yeah, they're a bit of a drive, but I think that all the lakes that he's doing is maybe a maximum of like 5 hours drive. So if you wanted to make a little weekend out of it. The other thing too is I think that right now Fat Bass's TV, he just video chatted me earlier and showed me this kayak trailer that he built that can haul 3 kayaks. So for all of you guys out there that have kayak trailers that would be willing to let kind of make a little road trip in caravan, all hop into the same truck, and just split gas money and stuff like that. Split, like Kristine was talking about, split an Airbnb or a hotel room or whatever. The cost really could be minimal on something like this if we want to travel over there kind of in groups. So definitely keep an eye out on that. And if you haven't already, go check out the name of the group is Kayak Night Tournament Series. And he's got events on Table Rock. So he's got 3 events in Missouri, 3 events in Kansas. So they're half and half. They're all night events. He's got Table Rock, he's got Stockton, and he's got Bull Shoals. So those are some pretty dang good fisheries that, you can definitely get into a good limit of fish at over there in Missouri. Fish something a little different than we're used to here at home. And then for here in Kansas, we've got Wilson, Perry, and Big Hill. So again, I think those are fairly proven fisheries. I don't have a lot of experience with Perry, but from some of the results that I saw from, I think it was a NECA event or a Flint Hills event, or maybe even both, they've got some good fish in there, and smallmouth and largemouth both. So definitely check out Kayak Night Tournament Series. Shout out to those guys. If you guys are wanting to fish kayak tournaments around the Kansas area, definitely look at Kansas Kayak Anglers. We're all combining into one big series next year, and we're going to be one big happy family fishing all the best lakes in the entire state of Kansas. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Good recommendation there, Justin Maples. I like that one. Matt Murphy. You might have to hook me up with him. I'm not sure I know Matt, so you might have to make that introduction, Charles. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. I appreciate you guys all tuning in week in and week out. I see a lot of the same names over there on the right side of my screen, and I really do appreciate you. The Daniel Maffeys and the Jacob Wards and the Fat Basses and the CBGs and there's a bunch of you guys, and I really appreciate it. And this whole podcast was really made for you guys. It was made for me, but it was made for you guys. So I really would take you guys' input to heart, because what I'm really trying to achieve by doing this podcast is I'm just trying to help grow the sport of kayak fishing right here at home. So having these bigger names on the channel are going to help do that. It's going to introduce people to our local clubs that might be in the area that didn't know we existed. That does happen. And so yeah, that is what we're trying to do here. And he says, Seagrave says he missed the interview, but definitely will come back and rewatch later. Guys, if you're new to the channel, there are plenty of interviews, 33 to be exact, that we have done over the last year, and hours of good content. If you guys just need something to listen to on the way to work, right now it is only available on YouTube. I really do probably need to make it available on some sort of podcast platform. So let me know what you guys are listening to your podcasts on, and I'll try to have those available on there as well. And I can just do them in audio form as well. That is something I forgot to touch on, Daniel. Made a whole episode without someone losing connection. So this is actually 2 episodes in a row. Now, for the first 20 or so, 25 probably even, we didn't have any connection issues. And then all of a sudden, the last 5 or 6 of them, we've had connection issues. So what I did was I went out and bought a Wi-Fi extender, and that has gotten the Wi-Fi signal out here to the garage, and seems to have done the trick. So the last 2 interviews we have done, I've been using this Wi-Fi extender. So that seems to be working. So guys, let me know what you're listening to your podcast on, so I can try to make those available for you. But other than that, let me know who you want to see on the next show, and make sure if you're not subscribed already, you do so. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and sign out. I'm going to call it a night, and hopefully we'll see some of you out at Table Rock. Later.